What's going on, everybody? This is Interviews with Warfighters, Episode 10. I have Master Sergeant Ian Bonnell, United States Marine Corps, retired. He served 21 years in the United States Marine Corps Infantry, retiring as an 0369. So I've got some history with the good Master Sergeant, but I'm going to bring him in here and introduce him tonight. Here he is, Master Sergeant Ian Bonnell. Welcome to the channel, brother. You there?
Yep, I'm here. I got I've got no live video stream yet.
Okay, well, you're live, man. So
okay, so what do you want to know?
Well, let's go back, man. Let's go back to whether elementary, middle school, high school. When was it that you wanted to be, or you found out and made that decision? You wanted to be a Marine, and specifically, you wanted to be an infantry Marine.
Okay, so that's a loaded question. So I'll be honest with you. So my dad was an Army Ranger. He served with MSgt, did 4 or 5 tours in Vietnam, and he wanted me to go into 82nd Airborne to be a Ranger and do all that stuff. And I'm like, nah, not gonna happen. I just did want nothing to do with the Army life. Just not gonna be for me. A lot of recruiters say they're like, oh, this guy walked in and said, hey, I want to be a Marine. I want to go infantry. That was me. I joined the Marine Corps for one reason, just to piss my dad off. No shit, not lying. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I met so many amazing people. I met my wife, my best friend of 21 years, 3 kids, amazing people, dogs. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So after I joined right out of high school, went to boot camp, and boot camp is kind of crazy. So a lot of people say, I did 3 years, or excuse me, 3 months in boot camp. I did 9 months in Marine Corps boot camp. So I went to San Diego, California. I was injured twice. I got recycled twice, and I got no joke, almost everything in Marine Corps boot camp I did 3 times. So when I graduated from boot camp, I had a third award expert, and I was also meritorious PFC, which is a crazy story because um, after all it was said and done, um, eh, I had a week before my last. I've been in for 9 months, and the senior drill instructor sat us all down, and we were in the DI classroom, and they're like, "Hey, here's meritorious PFC. Who here has got here is an Eagle Scout. Who here has got college, whatever." And that's me. I'm over here in this same classroom, and they started like, "Oh, what'd you get meritorious PFC for?" And I'm like, "Oh, he had a you know whatever." He comes over to me. He's like, "So Bonnell, why do you think you have meritorious PFC?" And I'm like, "Well, sir, I don't, but I've been here for 9 months." And he's like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Go grab your SRB," because at the time we had our SRBs. 'Cause we were a week from graduation. We had our SRB on our foot locker. I ran over, grabbed it, gave it to him. He went in the duty hut, came back out like after 5 minutes. He's like, "Everybody out the quarterdeck, Bonnell, stay." He's like, "Just begin." And so he thrashed me for like 5 minutes. He's like, "Get up, you're done, stop." And I'm like, "Shit, sir, what did I do wrong?" He's like, "How long have you been here?" I'm like, "Sir, 9 months." And he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Well, I told my story." And he's like, "Okay, all right, you're meritorious. You're not meritorious PFC time of great time of service." So I no joke. So the next day or 3 days later, we had the battalion commander's inspection, and I didn't have PFC chevrons sold on my alphas, but because I was so brand new there into that platoon. I'm 6'2", 6'3", depending on which 7-Eleven I walk in or out of. Okay, and I was in goon squad, so all the tall guys go into one squad, and so I was right behind the squad leader, and the battalion commander, came up and did his thing with him, and I wasn't supposed to get inspected. But he came over to me, and he's like, "Do your thing," and like boom, 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 boom. And he's like, "So, recruit, what was your most memorable thing about your 3 months here in MCRD San Diego?" And I'm like, "Well, sir, the first 3 months were awesome. The last 6 months sucked ass. And he's like, excuse me? And then he looked down. He's like, how do you have a third award expert? And I explained him. And then the senior drill instructor was looking at me like, and I'm like, well, sir, I explained everything to him. And I went through my, manual of arms and blah, 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 and they did the thing. So that evening, when we got done with the senior drill instructor or with the battalion commander inspection, we came back over to the schoolhouse or the squad building, or back over to the housing. And he's like, hey, Bonnell, get dressed, get your drill camis. We got to go. I'm like, okay. So that evening, I had dinner with the base sergeant major and the base sergeant major's wife, and they just wanted to talk. And they're just like, "You've been here? What the hell's going on?" I'm like, "Yeah, no joke." And I'm like, "Yeah, and I had probably 10, 15 times to where they told me that like, "Hey, you can go home if you want. Um, you can get a C&D with a condition, not a disability. You can just leave and go home." And I'm like, I'm from Burleson, Texas. Do you know what is there? Drugs and freaking cows. That's it. Where else do I gotta go? Like, I want to be a Marine. I'm in it to win it. I mean, fuck. So I stayed there. Anyway, I graduated, went to SOI, and of all things, Brent, can you imagine when I graduated SOI? 10th November, the Marine Corps birthday, and they put me in a 7-ton. They put all of us in a 7-ton. And they drove us all the way up to freaking San Mateo. I'm with the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. And you want to talk about a shitstorm? Holy fuck me in the goat's ass. And I apologize to everybody that's listening to me right now. This is not going to be PG. They dumped us off the 7-ton. It was pouring rain. It was pouring rain on the parade deck at SOI. We got there. It's still pouring. I mean, like pouring, like no shit. Like someone hitting you with a freaking like pouring rain. My uniform was fucked up. They put me in the barracks, and then let the games begin. And imagine having a bunch of drunk Marines with a boot PFC. Oh my God.
Hey,
So
real quick before we get too far down there, I just want to reiterate to everybody, he went through recruit training essentially 3 times. Like, one time is shitty enough. He did it all 3 times.
yeah.
And then, so when you get to SOI, what was your MOS? What'd you get?
033 machine gunner 03331. Hey,
So what'd you feel when you were told that?
it was not a feeling. It was like, do as you're told, to be honest with you. I was so happy to be done with boot camp
Yeah.
and just so excited to be just like, I'm going to be I'm out in the Marine Corps now. It's like, God, let me go. Let's go fight something. Let me go blow something up. Let's roll.
And what
And
year was
so,
this?
94.
94. Okay.
Yep. And it was an amazing thing. And oh my gosh, just let me go. Um, I mean, it's the Marine Corps, man. I mean, shit. I didn't care. I had no whims. Let me do my thing, and I went forth and did great things, man. Um, from there, from SOI, I went to from 1-5. I was actually at 1-5 for a month. It was actually right around Thanksgiving time frame. Um, got a knock at my door, like boom, 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 like, hey, Boot, get your ass out. You're going to Horno. I'm like, what? And like, you're going to 2-1. I'm like, 2-1, what's that? Yeah, your ass is going. I'm like, okay. So they grab all the shit out of your bedroom. Let's roll. So they put me in back. They took a whole bunch of us, put us in the back of a 7-ton. We drove down to Camp Horno, and they dumped us off at 7th Battalion First or 2-1, 7th Battalion First Marines. And we showed up, and I was like, and they put us there, and I spent 4 years there. Oh my God, 2-1, Camp Horno. Brent, Camp Horno is the epicenter of debauchery. So, yeah. So where do you want to go with this? You want me to skip it forward? You want we
No. Let's
tell
let's talk.
stories?
Let's talk about 2-1 a little bit. So you were there for 4 years. I mean,
I
any
was, yeah.
deployments? I'm sure you guys did a couple pumps, maybe.
We did two. So I'm a golden shellback. I'm an emerald shellback.
Can you
So we did.
explain? Because there's a lot of guys that are not Marines that are watching this that don't know what
Okay.
that is.
Okay. So if you're on a Navy vessel, and depending on what longitude and latitude you cross the equator, and you're going down to Perth, Australia, or Australia, you is a Navy rite, and they have a huge ceremony, and it's a day long of nothing but debauchery and freaking humiliation and misery. And you earn the right of either a golden shellback or an Elmer shellback. And I've done all of them. So they wake you up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and they come through. So hold on, let me back this up a little bit. So the ship I was on, it was USS New Orleans. Okay, this ship was built back in the 50s.
Oh
Okay,
my God.
oh, it was beyond miserable. So my bed was it was called a surge rack. So it was a cotton rack that was sewed together around an aluminum frame, and an itty bitty thin freaking mattress about this big. I don't know if you can see it, but like an inch thick. So every morning for 6 months, they would say, they'd get up and you hear it on a loudspeaker, and they would say, "Hey, surge your racks." So you would have to push them all up, and they would all move up and close into one. And we had no air conditioning. We didn't have a TV. I played Risk. I played freaking Risk. Yeah, I played cards. It was brutal. It was brutal on that ship. I mean, you sit there and sweat, just like because there's nothing you could do. I mean, you couldn't go outside. You couldn't do anything. It was brutal. The second time, my second float was on the USS Boxer. Okay, and it was a brand new ship at the time, and it was a maiden float, and that was, oh my God, beyond freaking an ass rape. And I say that is because when we floated out, when we left San Diego, we floated from San Diego. You go from San Diego to Hawaii. From Hawaii, then you're going to the Gulf. Okay, and a lot of people don't know, but a naval vessel, if they're going from Hawaii, they don't go in a straight line. They go like this. You're not going to feel it, but the vessel goes like this because if you go in a straight line, it's an act of war. So you have to very calmly go like that the entire way. What's from San Diego from Hawaii to UAE or to Kuwait is 45 days straight sail. So what the fuck are you gonna do for 45 days? They fucked with me. They fucked with us for 45 days straight. And you want to talk about, oh my God. The bad thing is that our our s- our the convoy that we're with, we had an aircraft carrier with us, and it had the Admiral on it. So he kept saying, like, well, I want to come over and see this brand new ship. And so, like no shit, 5 days out of Hawaii, they're like, well, hey, Marines, guess what? We're gonna strip and buff this freaking floor. We strip and buff it, and then we couldn't be in there all day. So what are you gonna do? We have the entire ship. He was like, okay, so what do we do? Get in trouble and push buttons. I mean, go into the chow hall, eat stuff, steal stuff. I mean, Marines are going to be Marines and Marines. Exactly. Eric said 45 days of straight jerking. Yeah, it was brutal. Um, so yeah, so yeah, um, so we did those two pump. I did those two pumps. Got back, and then at that time I was a corporal. Um, And then they said, "Hey, what do you want to do? You want to stay in? You want to get out?" And I'm like, "Well, I got nothing else to do. I ain't going back to Burleson, Texas. I mean, fuck. Yeah, I love the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is for me. I mean, Brent, you know as well as I do. You get that love, and you're just like, I get this, and this is. I love pressing my camis. I love spit shine on my boots. I love, giving a fucking salute when you walk up, when you go out of the chow hall and you see somebody, you're like, hey, sir, how you doing? And you're like, hey, no, hey, dick face, come here. That wasn't a proper salute. Come back over here and give me the salute. They're like, oh, you're a corporal. You can't do that. Yeah, I can, because you didn't give me that fucking proper salute, sir. Come back over here. The Marine Corps was me, and it was that it ingrained into me. So, I got orders to Bridgeport, California. So I went up there for a year. I was a mountain warfare instructor, and then the orders came, and they're like, "Hey," I walked in the CO's office, and he's like, "Hey, B, you got orders?" I'm like, "Well, sir, I've already been here. I mean, what the fuck are you talking about?" Like, you're going to MCRD San Diego, and I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" Like, well, you're going to be a recruiter. I'm like, "The fuck you talking about, man?" I mean, I just PCS'd here, dude. I mean, I've been here for a year. I mean, I still got a girlfriend. Bro, the fuck.
Were you
And
a
they're like,
sergeant at this point?
I was a sergeant at this point,
Okay.
and
What year was this?
that was 97, 98, give or
Okay.
take. And so drove my ass PCS down to freaking San Diego, went to recruiter school, and then I went to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and that was when the good Lord blessed me. A lot of people they talk shit about recruiters. For the Marine Corps on my side, it was a cool job. I first of all, I met my wife, my best friend of like 19 years, most beautiful thing. Yeah, sorry.
You're
Um,
all right, man.
yeah, and but it opened my eyes of what we do here in the Marine Corps, and how that I could.
So
Yeah. So recruiting duty was the most epic thing that I ever did in the Marine Corps, because like, I can't tell you how many times men or women walked in and they're like, "Hey, I want to be in the military." And I'm like, "Okay, so why?" And they would go through their story. I just want to I want to serve, whatever. And for the Marines, we we don't bullshit anything. We tell it how it is on the recruiting side of the house. It's just boot camp's gonna suck. It is what it is. And if you want all these extra special stuff, then go someplace else. And I can't tell how many guys, men and women, come in my office. They'd walk in. I was the only one there, and I'm sitting over here, having a cup of coffee, and they're like, "How much stuff can you give me?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna give you a fucking walk out of that fucking office. You want to be a Marine? Because that's the one thing you want to do. If you want to join the service, you want to be a Marine Corps. You want to be in the Marines. You want to be a Marine first. Everything else second." And they, so, and they got it. You know, I never lied. You don't have to as a Marine Corps recruiter. You don't have to lie. You just be honest, to God, truth. This is what we offer. This is what you're going to be as a Marine. It's going to suck. Boot camp fucking sucks, and this is the hell you're going to go through. But at the end of the day, you're not a former Marine. You're not a prior Marine. You're a Marine until the day that you motherfucking die. And the kids kind of like sat back in the chair, and they're like, and they kind of got it. And I'd bust out a can of chew. I'm like, "You want a can of chew, dude? You want dip?" And we would sit over the can, and I'm gonna put a dip in right now. And they would sit there, and we would talk about it. And they're like, "Sergeant Bonnell, is that real?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, no shit. This is how the Marine Corps is. I mean, this is not a career. This is a family. This is who we are. And if you don't want that, the door is right there, stud. And I'm a double centurion. So what that means in the recruiting world, So if you have 100 people that you enlist and send to boot camp, you're called a centurion. It's a rare award. It's very rare. I'm a double centurion. I did it twice. I did two tours on recruiting duty. Did it twice. And can't tell you how many times that after I retired, I was in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Actually, not in Colorado. I met him in Hawaii. I met him in Camp Pendleton. But I met the most of them after I got out. They're like, "Hey, I did my 4 years. I'm cool, and I'm gonna take what the Marine Corps gave me, and I'm gonna go forth and do great things." And I was at here's a good story for you, man. I was at an auto parts store in Colorado Springs, in Monument, Colorado. And no shit, I'm looking for a paint pen for my red truck. Okay, I'm looking around, and here comes this big beefy motherfucker. And he comes over, and he's like, "Go to Bonnell?" And I turn around, I'm like, holy fuck! It's like, and he comes over and he gives me a hug, dude. He's like, "Oh my god, man, holy fuck, dude, thank you." And it's one of my MEOPers. So a MEOPer is a dude or man or woman that you put in the Marine Corps that's the band member. And he was from Monument High School, and he's like, dude, he's like, I joined the Marine Corps, I became a MEOPer, I played the tuba for the Marines, and he's like, I learned all this crazy shit, and he's like, I got hurt, it wasn't for me, I got out, and he's like, I own the store because of you. I'm like, no shit. He's like, yeah, this is my store. This is free. You get whatever you want, dude. You want a battery? You want tires? Whatever you want for free. And I'm like, okay. It's the Marine Corps is a small place. So, circling back, okay. After recruiting duty, my first tour, and here's where it gets crazy. So, I met my wife. We got married on my first tour of recruiting duty. She was pregnant. That was 2002. I got orders to Alv Company, Alv Company 1-1. So I cruised out to Alv Company 1-1 there at Camp Pendleton. Was there for a couple weeks, and they're like, "We need volunteers to go over to 1-4 because they're going to war and you guys ain't." I'm like, "Oh, no shit." I'm like, "Well, here," and that's exactly how it went. And they had an entire, Brent, you remember the theater there at Horno? It was over by the motor pool area.
Yeah.
Okay, so they brought us all in there, and they no shit said, "Hey, all you staff NCOs, we need volunteers to go to 1-4. They're going to war. You guys aren't." And I'm like, boop, and there was 6 of us that raised our hands. No shit, 6 of us. That's it, out of the entire group.
Wow.
And they're like, go. So I came home that evening. I told my wife, "Okay, babe, I love you. I know we just moved out here. We just bought a brand new freaking apartment, but I'm leaving." And she, yeah, no, it was brutal, dude.
And I volunteered.
Yeah, and I volunteered. So she, and this is the testament of my wife. So she no shit. She was at the time, I think, 6 months pregnant, give or take. I packed the house up. She got in her car, gave me a kiss, and drove back to Colorado Springs, Colorado, 6 months pregnant in her car. And she's like, "I'll talk to you when I talk to you." And I mean, big pregnant, dude. I mean, and I'm like, Semper Fi, I mean, Marine Corps. One of the 1-4, Bravo Company 1-4. I was a machine gun section leader, and then we rolled out. I mean, drill, man. I mean, down to the Baghdad, freaking did our shit. I mean, you want me to go into what happened in freaking Baghdad? I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
will.
we ain't jumping over that, brother. I mean, this is titled "Interview with Warfighters" for a reason.
Holy fuck me. Okay.
All right, so let's go back, man. You get to Bravo 1-4. You become the machine gun section leader. So can you kind of explain what a machine gun section leader is?
So yeah, there's God, I don't remember my TONE right now. I do apologize, First Sergeant. So in a weapons platoon, you have an assault section, a mortar section, and a machine gun section. So I was in charge of the Messina section that had, I believe, 4 machine guns. Brent, tell me if I'm getting stupid right here.
You got 22 Marines in a machine gun. You
Yeah.
got 3 squads. Each squad has 2 machine guns per squad.
I'm old. I do apologize. I've been out for 6 years. So I was the guy, the Marine that told them, was in charge of all of them and told them what to do and had in place their gun systems and kill bodies. That's what I did. Train them. We're going to the freaking combat, and this is what I did. So yeah, so I had, I mean, shit, Brandon. Yeah, I mean, we were there in Kuwait for, I think, a month before we crossed the LOD. LOD is line of departure. And that was epic. Because I had been there twice. It was epic, dude. Because we moved up to the line of departure like a week before, and they were like, "Hey, we don't know if we're going into Iraq or not, but hey, it is what it is." Okay, so we moved up. We dug fighting positions, and that evening, our CO came out and was like, "Hey, this is what's happening. We're going in tomorrow, and here's your mop suits and mop up." And I mean, I wore a mop suit for freaking a month, dude. I mean, Brent, yeah, that was me. That was brand new. And that Marine right there next to me, that was Jim. He retired as a Chief Warrant Officer. He was a gunner, Chief Warrant Officer 4. Me and that dude sat in many a fighting holes all the way from Kuwait to Baghdad, pissing ass rain, freaking talking shit and fucking smoking cigarettes. That dude right there is a warfighter. No shit. He's here in Texas. Straight up warfighter. When we crossed the LOD, I mean, it was a straight sandstorm, and it was brutal. I mean, we were just marching straight to fucking Baghdad, and we would roll up, and then we would march for an entire day in Amtrak's, and then we'd stop, and then we'd refuel, and then they would get out and then dig fighting positions. And there's a road as far as you can see, straight up road. I mean, like driving to Wyoming, straight line road, and get out. We're gonna form a battalion defensive perimeter and start digging. And me, that dude you just saw, and the doc would spend like 45 minutes digging a fucking fighting position. And we would sit there and just like, fuck me in the goat's ass. I mean, it fucking sucked, dude. We were so tired. And then, nothing would happen. And then we'd sleep there, pouring ass fucking rain. And you couldn't do anything. We couldn't take our packs off the fucking back of the tram tracks. You couldn't have it was you and your mop suit and your weapon and fucking radio. And you couldn't do shit. Nothing. You just sit there and our fighting position was back, behind the defensive line, and we see all the other Marines, and it was pure fucking misery for a month until we got into An Nasiriyah. And that's when First Sergeant LeHue got the Navy Cross, because that's when he rescued Jessica Lynch. Remember that?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we rescued. I didn't. I had nothing to do with it. But that's when we were we helped with the rescue of Jessica Lynch. I'll never forget this, dude. The night before, the rain stopped, and we were on the backside of An Nasiriyah. Okay, we see the town. LAV's already been up there, fucking everything up. Dead cows everywhere. I mean, there was dead bodies, and we were fucking things up left and right. We got out, formed a battalion defensive position. And one of my Marines come up to me. We were dug in for the night, and it was nautical twilight, so the sun had already gone down, but it was you could still see everything. And this Marine comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, I don't know what to do." And I'm like, "Okay, what the fuck's going on?" And he showed me his elbow, and he had like 6 fucking hypodermic needles stuck into his arm. He's like, "What do I do?" He's like, Staff Sergeant, what do I do? And I'm like, go back to your position, bro. Just go. He's like, oh, okay. Well, what we didn't know is that our defensive position was a dumping grounds, was the fucking no shit dumping grounds for the hospital for An Nasiriyah. That's where, swear to God, dude.
I remember
Sw-
this.
you know that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Holy fuck me in the goat's ass. And you remember when we pushed over we got done with all that shit and we pushed over the bridge and we took all that fire over the bridge and all the fucking Amtraks were getting fucked up. And we pushed over the bridge and they freaking kept telling us to go on and we stopped. Okay. And we made another defensive perimeter on the other side of the bridge. Remember that, dude? And then they stopped us and they're like, hey, stand by to stand by. Man, that was brutal. That was a brutal night, dude. And that was when I'll never forget this, dude. You see movies about trauma that happens in combat and people that lose arms and legs and get shot and whatever. I'll never forget this, and this is one of my, how do I say this? My biggest regrets as a Marine, but I had to do it. It was pouring rain, and me and Doc and Staff Sergeant were in this huge fighting position, and we had this young Marine, and we brought him over because we had to keep comms with whoever, and it was just the rain was just freaking ungodly, and all of our mop suits were fucked up, so everybody was covered in rain. It was just, everybody was miserable, and the radio operator, I'm not going to mention his name, and I hope he's not on here, but if he is, I want to tell you, man, I love you. This dude, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was laying in the fucking mud, and there's nothing else I could do. I mean, I had my weapon on me, 203, just laying there in the fucking mud, and this Marine started whimpering, like crying, and he's like, "Mom, I want to go home. Mom, I want to go home," and he started whimpering, and I was like, "What the fuck do I do?" And he was on the radio, so I wasn't supposed to do this, but I went to the Amtrak, walked way out in the middle of fucking nowhere. I think it was my pack. Grabbed a freaking a poncho liner or a poncho. Took it off one pack. I thought it was mine. I don't know if it is or not. Whoever I stole your pack from, I do apologize. I came back and I covered him with it, and he sat there and cried for like 2.5 hours. Like cried, like no shit, cried, and I just got fucking tired of it. And I pulled the poncho off him, and I sat there and yelled at him for like 5 minutes. I'm like, "You motherfucker, stop for your fucking crying. You have fucking things to do. Do your fucking job. Get the fuck out of here and go out, walk that way to fucking enemy position." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Staff Sergeant." I threw the poncho back over him. I went down, sat down about it. 20 years later, I wish I would have never done that. I wish I never would, because it to this day it pains me. But he stopped, and to this day we're friends on Facebook, and I hope you're hearing it, bro. I love you, man. Yeah. So we pushed into Baghdad, and holy fuck me in the ghost ass once again. I mean, you want to talk about pure misery, dude? I mean, do you remember when we stopped at the freaking the goat factory or the factory where Saddam Hussein's brother, and we had to sweep off all the freaking the bird shit, and we slept in all that crap? Do you remember that, dude? And it was brutal, dude. I mean, fuck. So imagine this. They're saying, "Hey, guess what? Hey guys, here is a shed, a lean-to shed, where 300 Marines are gonna have to sleep, but it has 2 inches of fucking pigeon shit on it. Clean it up. 'Cause this is where you're gonna live for the next month." And we're like, "Okay, got it." And we did, and we did, and we lived there, and then we moved to Baghdad. We lived there for a month, and then we moved to freaking we moved to remember the cigarette factory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Oh, let's talk about that for a second. Okay. God, I don't know if I have time for all this, man. So, um, so our position that we took over was the Sumer cigarette factory in Baghdad. Was that right, Brent? Was it Sumer?
Well, Sumir was a cigarette brand. I don't know if it was the actual name of it or not, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
but you remember that, right? We
yeah.
lived there.
Oh yeah,
And we
oh
lived
yeah,
we lived on the back. We lived on that dirt, the grass lawn.
yeah.
And you remember that trench they had built out in front of us, and they had all those detainees that were over there. You remember that? And then we were there for like 3 days, and then we were the fucking they brought a bunch of army cats in because they were going to take over the backside of the Sumer cigarette factory. We're like, okay, whatever, fuck you. It's not my business. And then these officers were walking down in front of our position, and the Iraqis. So we had these huge Alaskan barriers. They were like 30 feet tall concrete barriers that surrounded the entire perimeter of the cigarette factory. And the Iraqis, like for whatever day, they had a birthday party um or whatever, like they're
Weddings and
get
stuff.
yeah, and they start shooting fucking guns off. So these fucks were walking down the middle of our fucking thing, and then they started shooting guns on the backside of the factory. And they're like, "Oh, what do we do?" And they jumped into this trench. Well, what they didn't know, you army fucks, is that trench led over. That's where we're all shitting. We've been shitting there for a freaking week. So imagine Cleveland steamers like this. I mean, it was full of it, and they sat there and and we were all out, and none of us moved. We're all there laying on our ISO mats, going like, "Are you serious right now?" And we're all laughing at them, taking pictures and shit. Like, "Hey, dude, hey, bro, it's cool, man. Ain't nothing coming in." And they got out, and they were covered from waist down in fucking human excrement, and we started laughing. Do you remember that, dude? Do you remember that?
I don't, but I do remember my own story during the invasion where we were clearing a village and I stepped in some fucking shit trench and it was awful. My whole jungle boot was covered in Iraqi shit,
Oh,
and
dude.
I went back to get on the track, and the trackers were like, "Hell no, you are not getting on this track." I mean, we're in the middle of a freaking like fight. So
Oh,
they
dude.
made me freaking take my boot and just wipe it and get all that shit off my boot. It's not like you got a fire hose or something to hose it off. I had to take dirt and clean off all this Iraqi shit off my boot to be able to get back on the track
Oh, oh
because they
yeah.
were gonna let me off.
Well, do you remember? I think you were with us when after we before we got to the cigarette factory. We had a snap BCP. So a snap BCP is like a vehicle control point, and we stopped all the vehicles going in and out. It was right before we got to Baghdad. So all these dudes were going like military age males, like were carrying backpacks full of fucking money. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
And we're stopping all the fucking vehicles going back and forth and back and forth. And this one dude stops and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm from Orange County, California." And I'm like, "The fuck you talking about, man? What the fuck you doing here, dude?" He's like, "Well, I'm a doctor, man, but I got like $30 million of fucking Iraqi dinar right here, and I'm going that way. Am I cool?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You're cool." He's like, "Hey, you want a beer, man?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you want a beer?" And he dropped his pack, unzipped it, and you can see the Marines behind me, like they're like, and he had a 6 pack of these uh, Tiger beers. And he's like, "Here you go, guys. Just let me go, man. I'm from Orange County. Here you go." And I'm like, "What do I do now?" And the Marine on the machine gun, I don't remember his fucking name, dude. He's like, "Staff Sergeant, can I drink it?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, you can drink it, dude." And they all my Marines fucking chugged it the fuck down, and I let the dude fucking walk. These are stories I can't make up, dude. Holy, um, or it's or okay, so yeah, OAF2 happened. So we get to Baghdad, and then there was one day that I was having some issues. So I was having some serious issues. My whole left side of my body was all fucked up. I couldn't breathe. We made it to Baghdad and we came back down, And then we were at the cigarette factory again, and I was like, I told my lieutenant, I'm like, hey, dude, I'm not right now. I mean, there's something seriously wrong with me. And the lieutenant's like, well, Staff Sergeant, go to medical and come back. I'm like, okay, cool, sir. I woke up 5 weeks later. 5 weeks.
Fuck.
So yeah, no shit, dude. So if you ever wonder why I disappeared, it's because I had a ruptured appendix, and so I was walking over to shock trauma, and the same time the same time I was walking over to it, I passed the fuck out, and then docs found me, and they took me to shock trauma, and the same time I got there, um, there was a mass casualty event from the Army and the Marine Corps, and they lumped me in with everybody else. And they're like, we don't know what the fuck's going on with this guy. He's on a stretcher, whatever. And then I woke up 5 weeks later. Well, what happened was so I got there and they're like, the fuck's going on with this guy? And they're like, nobody knows. He's not bleeding. Give him some more, give him some morphine. Give me some morphine. So they medevaced me in the flight going from Baghdad, from shock trauma at Babylon to Talil Air Base. They hit me again with morphine in flight. And then when I got to Talil, I flatlined. So I was completely OD'd, flatlined. I was in they no shit. They didn't know what the fuck was going on with me. And the only thing that saved my life, dude, the only thing that saved my life, didn't know who the fuck I was, didn't know why I was there. I had my meat tags. And I'll remember this. I got a sternum rub. You know what a sternum rub is?
Mm-hmm.
So I had this big, huge Samoan dude, like 6'6", 6'5", walk over me. And I remember this. I got a sternum rub. I woke up. And he's like, hey, dude, you're fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to operate, man. I'm like, and he rolled me over and as he's cut my uniform off me. He's like, that's why I love Marines, because I got my meat tags, my dog tags tattooed on my rib cage. He's like, he wrote it down. He's like, that's why I love Marines, man. Cut it off me. And then he's like, we got you, man. We got you. And then I woke up, and I woke up to a Navy corpsman in a blast suit. No shit. I was in a freaking, I can't make this stuff up, man. So, my appendix ruptured. I didn't get shot, nothing crazy like that. My appendix ruptured. I was in a cold unit of shock trauma in Tulare Air Base. So when I woke up, this Navy corpsman woke me up, and he's like, "Hey, wake the fuck up," da da da. And he was in the EOD suit. You know what I'm talking about? The fucking full blast EOD suit.
Yeah.
Because what happened the day before is because they were going through all my stuff. Well, what they didn't know is my bag, my go bag that I had, they medevaced me with, was full of shape charges and fucking a claymore and a fuck ton of fucking hand grenades. And this Navy corpsman unzipped it and dumped it all out on my bed, and fucking hand grenades rolled everywhere. And they're like, "Oh, what do we do? What do we do?" They zipped it back up and they fucking freaked the fuck out, cleared it all out, put it back up, and they come back into me like, "Hey, dude, is there anything else that you need to tell us?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm good." So I spent a couple weeks there, got back to what I was supposed to be doing, and then he's like, the corpsman was like, he's like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, you want to take a shower?" And I'm like, well, I haven't had one like I don't know how long. He's like, "Hey, come on, bro, we're gonna take a shower." I'm like, "Cool." So I had 2 IVs in me, no shit, one in both arms, and that's how dehydrated I was. I was fucked, dude. Brent, you want to talk about fucked up? I was beyond fucked up, and I don't even want to talk about the guy who was next to me. So I had a walker, like a no shit walker, and we walked across all this fucking shit, and we got into this shower tent, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna sponge you down. Is that cool?" I'm like, "I don't give a fuck, man." I'm standing there, and then you could smell the perfume. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, "Oh, perfume." I'm like, you could smell it, dude. And you can smell women, and I'm like, "The fuck?" And I started looking around. Well, what they didn't tell us is that we had the Polish army here, and the Polish army had a complete freaking detachment of freaking of corpsmen, medical personnel there. So, and it was their shower time. So I'm standing there, butt naked, with two huge black men wiping me down. Okay, and the entire Polish women came in, and they didn't give a fuck, dude. There's like, boob flapping everywhere, and I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, God, please not right now. I'm like looking down. I'm like, please not right now. And most epic shower ever had in my life. I can't make this up, dude. So I can't make this up, man. So we go to the shower. I got sent to Kuwait, and then I got sent to Rota, Spain, and then I got sent to Camp Pendleton. And I came, when I was at Camp Pendleton, after all that, there was nobody there. Okay, so the entire First Marine Division was gone. You know this, man. Nobody was there.
Yeah.
So there was 6 staff NCOs for Camp Horno. That was it. And they're like, "Hey, dude, check it out, bro. You got duty." And I'm like,
Welcome
"The
home."
fuck? Yeah, welcome home. You got duty." The PX only stayed open for 2 hours. Okay, the chow hall opened for 30 minutes, and the only thing they served was bag nasties out of the backside of the chow hall. That was it. And I had no car. My wife just had my daughter. She was in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was stuck there, and the only option I had was taking the loser cruiser, the shame train, going out to Oceanside, California. And that's all I had.
395.
Oh yeah. So no shit, dude. So every 3 days I had duty, regimental duty, like poor Staff Sergeant Bonnell. So this one night, I can't make this up, dude. So actually, it was the middle of the day, and it started on a Saturday. So I started my rounds. You had to go to every duty, check them out, make sure they're doing okay, report your post, da da da. So I went from the regimental command post, and I went through my way past the chow hall to where the 1-4 barracks was, and I'm walking through the grinder, and in my peripheral vision, I'm seeing something, and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And then this dude pops up in a ghillie suit, runs over and starts beating the hell out of something. I'm like, "What the fuck is he doing?" So what this guy was doing, he was killing ground squirrels. He had a ghillie suit laying in the freaking in the dirt in the front of the barracks, and he had no shit. I can't make this up, dude. He had a mop handle. In the mop handle, he had a freaking a freaking laundry bag tied to the end of it. And in fact, he was catching ground squirrels with it. And I was like, I didn't see nothing. Whatever, dude. Made my rounds, came back in, and sun came down. And then I get this call from one of the duties. They're like, hey man, one of the barracks dumpsters on fire. And I'm like, oh, okay. Nothing to do. Okay, whatever. Okay, not a problem. Went out the dumpster, and at a radio, I could click over. I could talk to long rifle. I could talk to depending on the knob. I could talk to long rifle. I could talk to Camp Pendleton Fire, and I could talk to PMO. So I clicked it over to Camp Pendleton Fire, and I'm like, hey, this is Staff Sergeant Bonnell. I'm here, 53 area. We have a dumpster fire, and no shit, that's what they told me. So is it around anything? Well, no, it's in the middle of the parking lot. Pause. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what am I supposed to do here? Well, is it next to anything? No, there's nothing around it. Well, just let it burn. And I'm like, uh, uh, okay, just let it burn. Like, yeah, let it burn. And that's it. And like, yeah, if it gets out of control, call us back. Click. So I'm like, okay. So I clicked it back over to main duty frequency. And then one of my duties is like, they're like, Staff Sergeant, get your ass up here, dude. There's a fire in the backside of the barracks. And I'm like, at this time it was dark. So I roll my ass up. So do you remember on the backside of Horno? You remember where that if you drive on the right side of the flagpole and you go all the way up, there's that barracks way out in the middle of nowhere, and there's that range out there. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about? Okay, that's the barracks I'm talking about. So I get up there and I'm walking, and I'm in chucks. Okay, I'm in chucks. All right, and there's a fire, huge fire going on the backside of the barracks. I can't see any of this. I see the fire because there's a cliff, and it's forecasting all the ambient light. So I come around the backside of the barracks and I stop and I look, and lo and behold, there's like 30, 40, 60, I don't know. There's more Marines that are out there that I can count that are butt naked, combat boots, that are dancing around this fire. Okay. And I'm just like, what the fuck do I do right now? And I have a 9mm pistol at 15 rounds. Okay. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And on top of that, they have something going on the spigot. So they have a spigot and they're roasting something. And I look over on the backside of the barracks and there's a Marine skinning something. It's a fucking coyote. So they were roasting a coyote and they were getting, and I stopped and I made a career moment right there. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to tackle this. Super Fidelis, I'm out. And I'm like, no. And then I kind of backed away for a minute. And as I turned around, there's like 20 Marines that stopped me. And they're like, where are you going, duty? And I'm like, fuck me. You want a beer? And I'm like, gentlemen, I'm on duty. They're like, well, come on. And I'm like, I get overpowered right now. I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, hey, just have one beer with us. I'm like, oh, okay. So I cracked a beer with them. Didn't have any sips. And what they didn't know is I was pouring it out. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're good. They're like, have another one, Staff Sergeant. I'm like, hey, thanks, buddy. And so I poured out like 5 beers, and there was drunk Marines everywhere, passed out on the floor. I mean, I can't make this up. And I'm like, well, guys, I got to go back to the barracks. I mean, I got to roll. Okay, we'll come back whenever you're ready. We got more beer. And I'm like, hey, thanks. I cracked a beer, had it with me. And I'm like, hey, thanks, guys. Boom, boom, boom. Walked down a dumpster, dumped it out. I was like, I turned around. I made the entry in the logbook. And the next morning, the staff duty was changed over with me. He's like, are you serious right now, dude? I'm like, yeah, bro, you're not gonna believe this. He's like, I ain't going back up there. I'm like, I wouldn't blame you. He's like, we're not going back up there. That was a barracks while the Marines that were on stop loss from State Platoon that were getting out, that had went to Iraq, and they got stop lost and they got brought back, and now they're waiting to get out. And I'm like, have fun, do your thing, dude. Do your thing, bro. Do your thing, bro. Do your thing. So then, so I did after that. We rolled into OIF2. You remember that? We did our thing. OIF2. Oh my God, dude. So here's my conundrum. I wrote a lot of Marines and sailors up for awards, and none of them got a goddamn thing. Nothing. Sergeant Sperry, remember him?
No, I can't say I do.
Okay, well, regardless, there was a lot of Marines because at this time I was with Weapons Company 1-4. I was the 81 millimeter section leader, and we did a lot of crazy stuff. And I wrote a lot of Marines up for awards, and none of them got it. And what I was told later down the road is because of the fact that I was staff NCO, but there was no officers present. It to this day, it pains me. It pains me because I saw a lot of heroic shit done, and these guys didn't. These men did not get awards because I was a staff sergeant. I was an officer, and oh my gosh, man, it is what it is.
I don't. If I can just interject real quick, there's a big disparity between the Army and the Marine Corps when it comes like to awards. Like in the Marine Corps, a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, which is, it's pretty much the first personal medal that you can be awarded, right? It's an achievement medal, but in the infantry specifically, I mean, it was freaking. You had to fucking destroy a Japanese machine gun bunker with a freaking demolition charge in order to get a damn Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Combat Distinguishing device. And then on the flip side of that, you have the Army, which, Army Accommodation Medals, which is equivalent to our Navy Com. They freaking just give those to everybody. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk shit about any of the other branches of services, because it is what it is. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I just want to say, like, I'm not necessarily agreeing the Marine Corps does it right, because it's like, just as you just said, Ian, there are so many Marines that have done some unbelievably awesome stuff in combat under fire, and then they don't either get recognized or they get an award that is not representative of what they actually did.
true story. Well, I'll tell you this. And I'll say his name out there. His name is Doc Josh Bunker. Okay. We got pinned down. So in 2004, so we were tasked to attack and defend this whole portion of the cemetery, the world's largest cemetery in Jaffa, Iraq. Okay. Well, halfway through it, we dropped a comm fill, and our radio operator didn't know it. So our orders were just push this specific area and hold it and defend it, and we did. And I lost a Marine, Sergeant Reynoso. He got shot, and it was unfortunate. Fucking warrior, man. Well, when all that went down, Josh Bunker, when how can I explain this, man? He ran out there under fire, got shot twice in the sappy plate, took 2 rounds in the sappy plate, and one of the helmet. Okay, picked his Marine up, decided, did his triage, and then I'm like, Doc, get the fuck out of there. I was yelling at him. He ran back to our position, and he's like, Mass Sergeant, he's KIA. There's nothing I can do. And without hesitation, Vaughn, I don't remember his first name, but Lance Corporal Vaughn dropped his weapon, ran out there, grabbed this dead Marine, KIA, grabbed his body, and brought him back to our position. That dude was shot twice in the back, in the sappy plate, and survived. And I wrote both these Marines up, with that Marine and that Doc up for Silver Stars. Doc got nothing. Vaughn got a Navy Achievement Medal with a V. And I still remember to this day, when he picked that Marine up, there was rounds impacting all over him. And I can't make this up, dude. And he picked him up, full body armor and everything, picked him up over his back and ran back to our position. I mean, fuck. How much more heroics do you need? And
Right.
they downplayed it. And I'm just like, to this day, I don't say, man. I mean, it was fuck me in the goat's ass, man. I mean, the dude, and I saw, after I retired, I went into and I saw all the stuff I've done. I went through my own PF and I saw the awards that I wrote up and went everything like that. And I saw how it went up and it went down. I'm like, are you seriously right now? You didn't see, you didn't see what that dude did. I mean, come on, man. I mean, there were some good dudes, man, that did a lot of freaking heroic shit. They should have got a lot of more stuff than what they deserved. But that's the Marine Corps. That's where we're not rocking 7 Bronze Stars, dude. And I'm not
Right.
saying anything
Right.
about any of the branches of services. They have different award systems. It is what it is. So after I left 1-4, I got orders back to recruiting duty. I did a tour back again in RS Denver. I was in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Once again, I can't say nothing but great things about recruiters. Those guys, those men and women, the hell they go through. I mean, I'll say this: if you ever go into a restaurant, or if you ever see a Marine in dress blues, that's at a gas station, pay for the gas, pay for their meal, shake their hand, because what they go through is freaking unimaginable from anything in the Marine Corps, anything in the Marine Corps. And I could do a whole section on this just about recruiting. And recruiting's phenomenal. I loved it, and it shaped me to who I am today. But if you see those men and women out there, because they're doing great things. I mean, they're going to Walmart at 1 o'clock in the morning and talking to the men and women that are working at Walmart and say, "Hey, you ever thought about joining the service? You ever they're it's just the amount of things they do is just unimaginable." Once I got done with that, I got promoted to gunnery sergeant, and then I got moved to PCS to 3-3 Kilo Company 3-3 Hawaii. Let's talk about Hawaii, man. Okay, so Hawaii is a great place if you're not married. Hawaii is a great place if you're not an infantry marine, because they don't have enough space on that island to hold. Yeah, that's me and gunners. Guns, good place.
Sorry, I actually didn't mean to pull that up yet.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I got a good cock bumper going on right there. So that's Chris Denham. He's a sergeant major, still on duty. Great dude. That was right before the Chris Nichols concert there in Ramadi. That's where it's at. But Hawaii it's kind of a conundrum because they don't have enough places to put 3 infantry battalions. They don't have it. So one infantry battalion. So what a lot of people understand is that Hawaii 3-3 3rd Battalion 3rd Marines, or anything within 3rd Marines, is the most deployed unit in the Marine Corps because they don't have places for us. So we're either going to Japan, we're going to Iraq, Afghanistan, Hawaii, the Big Island. They don't have places for us, and it was brutal, and the sheer misery at Hawaii, Brent. Oh my God, sheer misery. But I won't go into that too much. I won't go into that. That's a whole different story right there. Hawaii is a whole different story. So I was the company gunny, and then my CO and I, we did not talk. We had issues. So I got demoted. So I got pulled from the company gunny down to the weapons platoon sergeant. Well, hey, dick face, weapons platoon sergeant also has the TO&E says it's a gunny. So I'm like, okay, well, fucking eat a bag of dicks. So it's the same thing. It's a gunny position. So whatever. So I rolled that, and then I got frocked. So I was a senior gunny in the Marine Corps, 069. Got pulled over, and then I got moved to SOI, School of Infantry, there in Camp Pendleton, California, and I became the staff NCOIC, staff non-commissioned officer in charge of Infantry Squadrons course there at Camp Pendleton. I was there for a year, and then I got hurt, my knee blew out, and then they said, well, hey, you can't be that anymore, so let's move over to weapons or to ops. So I became the assistant regimental operations commander for operations staff NCOIC for SOI West. I was there for 3 years, and then I was getting promoted to mass sergeant or to mass guns, and then I talked to the monitor, and he's like, "Hey, dude, you're moving." I'm like, "Okay, where am I moving to?" He's like, "You're going to East Coast." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I no desire," because at this time I'd been a geographical bachelor for over 3.5 years. He's like, "Yeah, you're getting promoted mass sergeant. We know it's going to happen. You're one of the most senior 369 mass sergeants in the Marine Corps. It's going to happen. All you have to do is fart in the wind, and you're done, dude. You're getting promoted." And I'm like, "Yeah, got it, but I'm not going to I'm not going to the East Coast." So I dropped papers and I rolled. So when I was there at SOI, so I was the command historian. I rolled. I did. I was the You know, I did a lot of stuff, man. Some of the stuff I'm not going to talk about what I did here because I still have 2.5 years left before I'm officially retired. But SOI West, that's my beautiful wife. Yeah. SOI West was a great duty station. So we had perfect example. I had one of my Marines that he worked in the not the duty hut, but the command, like when you for SOI West, we had a 2-story command section or command building. You had to walk up, and there was the floor where and there was Marines sitting right there. So I had this guy, and we called him Shaky Jake, and he would always sit there and just shake like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like sitting in a rock. And I made him a point, like every morning I would get there at 5. And the guys, they would show up like 6:37, and I made a point to talk to him. And I'm like, hey man, what the hell's going on with you? He's like, well, Master Sergeant, I got pinned in between a 7-ton and a water bowl and hit my spine. So I was down in Balboa for like almost like a year and a half. I was paralyzed from the waist down. I had to learn how to walk, and now I have a spine, problem. And the Marine Corps wants to give me a C&D. A C&D is a condition, not a disability. So what they did to a lot of Marines there at Camp Pendleton, SOY, they got hurt. To get them out, they would say, hey, check it out. You're hurt. It's a condition, not a disability. Take this now, and you can come back in 6 months, and we'll take you back. And what they did, a lot of them. Well, this guy was totally fucked up. 10 ways to Sunday, and I pulled him over. I pulled him into my section over S3, and he was mine. And I walked him through, like, don't do this, don't do that. And then he's like, hey, I gotta go back over, and he disappeared for like a year, and then he showed back up, and he's like, hey, Master Sergeant, he's like, I'm getting medically retired, and just want to let you know, thank you for everything you did. Because if I didn't know what you told me, I would be on the streets right now and da da da. I'm like, cool, hey, thanks, Marine, da da da. He left. A month after he left, every single month for the next freaking year, in my personal PO box, I got a freaking 5 fucking pound bag of cat shit coffee. I don't know what it's called. It's like it's worth like $5,000 a bag. It's like the civets they're not cats, but they're like the mountain civets that in South America, they eat coffee beans and they poop them out. And then people they take them, they clean them off, and they roast them, and they sell them for like thousands of. Swear to God, dude. So swear to God. So his mom and dad, he was a multi-millionaire. His mom and dad were like uber rich, and they owned a coffee exporting company from South America. So he sent me, like, no shit, for like the next year, he sent me 5-pound bags of this coffee. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And the guys at SOI, they have no idea, because I'd go in the mornings, okay? I made coffee every morning. We have this huge, like, church coffee pot, and they had cat shit coffee every morning, and it was phenomenal. Swear to God. And I can't make this up, because I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, what do I do? And they had, like, each one of those cups of coffee was worth like $200 or $300. No shit. And I served the entire command staff, from the entire command staff of SOI, all the first sergeants, all the COs, the Sergeant Castle. He drank it on a daily basis. Okay. They all had it, and they're all like, Master Sergeant Bonnell, this best coffee I ever had in the world. I'm like, good for you, bud. What am I supposed to say here, man? Like, here you go, dude. For a year, man. No shit.
Wow.
Every morning. Brent, I can tell you stories, man. That's my career in a synopsis.
Well,
Um,
real quick, did we skip a deployment? You were talking about going to being in Ramadi earlier. Did you deploy
I did. So
third time?
Ramadi was a shit show. Okay, so um, that was the point to where um, so I had a CO that did not like me.
Well, when
So
was it? What year was this, and what unit were
that
you in?
was that was 3-3. So that was 2008, 2009, give or
Okay.
take in that time frame. Um, the guy with the bald head you're seeing, that's Chris. He's a sergeant major, still active duty. Great guy, phenomenal person. They brought him in. They made him the company gunny, and they made me the weapons platoon sergeant, which is still, a gunnery sergeant position. I'm like, okay. And then from there, it was just like, I mean, oh my God, it was Baghdad on crack because I ran the op center every other day, but it was like, hey, we need stuff, and I'm like, okay, what do you need? We need tires, or we need parts for this or parts for that. And then I had a little squad of Marines that were just like total dirtbags. I mean, I can't make this up. It's like grimy, 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 grimy of grimy. And I'm like, hey, check it out. I need 4 tires tonight. I need 10 windshields. I need a left-handed, a door handle for a fucking Humvee. Um, I need X, Y, and Z. Go get it. And they would. And we ran that base like it was, oh my gosh, dude, it was straight up like, I can't make this up, dude. It was like, holy shit. Um, you needed something, you came to us. I mean, literally. I mean, we had commanders that would come over to us and like, hey, so one of my sergeants, they lost the left, they lost the lower part of their M4. Can you come find it for us, please? Or, like, hey, man, check it out, dude. One of our KBR trucks that we were, given to us in the company, the rear end is fucked up. We need a new rear end for this KBR truck. And by the way, it's Toyota. Can you go find it? I'm like, well, what's in it for me? Well, what do you want? Well, what do you got? Well, what do you want? Well, what do you got? What do you want? What do you got? It was straight up mafia. It was interesting. Well, let me take you back even further than that. Do you remember Najaf 04, 04
Yep.
or 05?
How could I
Okay.
forget it?
Oh, dude. Do you remember FOB Duke?
The name sounds real familiar. I want to say other companies in the battalion were there, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
at this point, you were still with Bravo Company, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I was switched over to Weapons Company. All right, so we got moved up to, after all that crap happened with Najaf, and things died down, and then because things were happening up in Fallujah, remember that, and everything kind
Yep.
of died down. We were just doing patrols around Najaf, so we got moved up to FOB Duke, which is north of Najaf, and we were Weapons Company 81s, who I was with. We were the improvised um, uh, guard force for the entire base. And I'm like, you have no idea what you just did right now. Okay. Okay. So it was straight up mafia. Straight up mafia. Um, so anything coming in or out of that base, I had my hands on. Everything. There was a time to where on Miami, which is, the main route, which is like 5 miles away from us, going from Baghdad to all the way or excuse me, from Kuwait all the way to Baghdad. We had a 5 or 6 mile radius that we were the QSR, quick reactions force. So if anything happened within our radio range, we had to go out and respond to it. So if anybody got a tick, troops in combat, or whatever, we had to go respond to it. Okay. So one night, we got a tick, and these guys said, "Hey, look, we just got hit, and we're dumping some stuff, and we're rolling, but you guys need to come out and grab it, secure it." So hey, no problem. So we rolled out there, and no joke, they dumped like 4 huge semi truck trailers that were full of refrigerated stuff, and they refrigerated truck trailers, and it was right before Thanksgiving, and I cut the lock on it, like cut the lock on it, open it up, and it was just food, like turkeys, lobsters. I mean, it was just like a plethora. All this food was supposed to go up to wherever they were going, and I couldn't get back in contact with them. They out of radio contact. So I'm like, oh, what the fuck do I do right now? So I got on my radio. I called them KBR. Remember the contractors, KBR?
Yeah.
I called them. I'm like, hey, guys, get these vehicles, get them off the MSR, bring them back to the FOB. They hooked up. They came out there, hooked up, brought them back to the FOB, and then they drove in. I went and talked to the mass sergeant that was in charge of the chow hall, and I'm like, hey man, these are all refrigerated trucks, and there's lobsters and steaks and beer, and what do you want to do with these guys? He gave me a hug, dude. He's like, no shit, give me a hug. And he's like, every meal on from here on out is on you. No joke, dude. Every single meal for the next 6 months until we left, every single meal had lobster and steak. You want
That's
lobster?
awesome.
They had a lobster and steak bar. You want lobster and steak? It's over here. And it was a courtesy. It had a sign. It said courtesy of 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, Weapons Platoon, 81s. No joke, dude. Can't make this up. And I got so tired of eating steak and lobster. I was like, I just want some eggs, man. I can't eat any more of that.
So since you were in weapons company, you might have a little bit more priviness to this, but did 1-4 start the Battle of Najaf?
No. So we instigated it. So the whole thing, we instigated it. So you know the whole story about when the lieutenant, with weapons, drove down an alley, and then Dick Face was getting stupid. He shot. So I read the after action report, and they shot at us first, and they had like a pistol, like bink, bink, bink.
Yeah.
And so Lance Corporal Smuckatelli, like, eat a bag of dicks, fuck you. Turned right around with a freaking Mark 19, like, and that's what started it.
That's awesome.
No joke, dude.
Yeah, I remember. The platoon I was attached to at FOB Hotel. We were react, right, and that very first engagement, we rolled out there, and it's just weapons company cat, just doing its thing, 50 cals and marks you hear going off. Well, then we show up, rifle platoon, and it sounds like a freaking rifle range. Oh yeah, with all those M16s opening up and saws and.
Oh yeah, dude. Here's a crazy story. So, okay, I'm gonna throw my name out there for a minute. So, after I got out of the Marine Corps, after I retired, I went to a PTSD retreat down here in San Antonio, Texas. I was there for inpatient therapy for 30 months, or for 30 weeks, or excuse me, 30 days. And there was an Army cat, and me and him didn't click. And he was just a fucking total cocksucker. We were just nothing clicking, and we did a lot of therapy, group therapy, and and we did a round table session, and they were like, tell me about your worst stories ever. And he started talking about when I was in the JOF, and I was at the I was in Revolutionary Circle, and there were a bunch of Marines, and I'm like, whoa, dude, that was me. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Like, you were in that fucking building over there? Because that was us that fucking dropped the JDAM on that fucking building. We're the ones that fucking protected your ass as you were coming out. And God works in mysterious ways if you so believe. And it brought closure to that guy, because he's like, dude, he's like, I thought I killed so many people. I'm like, dude, you saved lives, because he came out, and then we bombed that building, and he came out with all this fucking SF guys and went down the Revolutionary Road, and then started dropping JDAMs in the freaking cemetery. And I'm like, dude, you fucking saved us. I'm like, no shit, dude. You fucking saved our ass. And he cried like a little kid, dude, on my lap. Cried for fucking like half an hour. He's like, I never knew, man. He, the military is a crazy place. So yeah, it's.
I've got another story very similar to that. The Cobra pilot that was flying CAS for us.
Yes,
I met him in person, and we're good friends to this day.
No shit.
Yeah. So the only reason I knew him or met him is because the reserve infantry company that I checked into after I left active duty, the company commander at the time was good friends with him and some of the other staff NCOs that I ended up, meeting and knowing. And then they introduced me to him, and they're like, "Hey, Brent, weren't you in the battle on the job?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, this is fucking Slant." That was his call sign. And like, he was a Cobra pilot. He was in that. And I'm like, "You're shitting me." And I remember there was a Cobra one time because my gunner and we were in the middle of this road behind this palm tree providing off-blade fire down this road. And I remember looking back over my shoulder, and this freaking Cobra is coming right off the ground, man, firing rockets. And just, he couldn't be any lower. If he was any lower, he was skimming the palm tree leaves. And I to this day, man, I'm like, I know that was Dave flying that bird.
It's the Marine Corps is a small place, man. I'm telling you, dude.
100%.
So, do you remember in 2004 when that Cobra, not Cobra, but the Huey crashed on the intersection, the 4-way intersection?
Yeah, I actually had a picture of that.
Yeah, and then we were all fighting for it, and because the Mujahideen was coming in, and we were just freaking going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So we rescued the entire crew. We saved them, and long story short, months. It was like 6 months down the road. I was in freaking Kuwait. Turned over my freaking vehicle. Okay, in the backside of my vehicle, there was his freaking radio, his freaking emergency radio. I had that for years. Freaking for years, dude. And it still worked. And I disposed of it, got rid of it, but it was still in the back of the fucking vehicle where Doc Bunker, because the dude was shot in the orbital eye socket. The pilot was shot, and he still landed it. The crew chief, he was shot through the ribs, had a collapsed lung. He had 5 broken ribs. It was jacked up 10 ways to Sunday. I think one of the crew members died. I don't remember. I'll never forget that, dude. Never forget that to the day I die, because the freaking Iraqis were using on that 4-way intersection. They were using that. There was it was a Mercedes-Benz freaking SUV, a station wagon, and there was a bunch of dead people in it, and they were using that as a staging point to go point and try to get back around at us.
Right.
I'll never forget that, man.
So this photo right here is courtesy of Zane Fisher, who I did an interview with early on, and he gave it to me, and it's like, look at this Huey, man. Like, look at all the rounds impacted in the windshield. Like, we didn't do that. We didn't sit there and like have target practice with our own Huey. That's all enemy fire, and it just shows you. And when I explain people like this battle, it was Black Hawk Down. We had a bird go down. We rolled out there as react. We set up a cordon until they could get a wrecker out there to extract this bird. And the enemy was hitting us the whole time, trying to get to this bird.
You remember that, dude? Yeah, it was brutal. It was fucking brutal, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it pains me, and it's part of the reason why I do these interviews with warfighters. Also, it's just our battle was so overshadowed by Fallujah that happened.
Yeah. It was, yeah. The things we did, the straight up heroics that I saw, from the average everyday Marine that I saw there was, oh my gosh, man. It was epic. I can't make stuff up. When we the morning of when we got told that we're going into that fucking graveyard, we got told that the tanks were going to come in and knock a hole into it, and they were going to rush in, and it was like straight up like Stalingrad. Like, we're going to go in and that's what we're gonna do. And then fan out, and here's where you're gonna go. We're gonna go this way, and Alpha Company's going that way, Bravo's going this way, Weapons going that way. I'll never forget this. We're sitting on that wall, and Lieutenant Bashir's, he looks at me, he's like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, give him the call." I said, "Fix bayonets." And the Marine's like, "What?" I'm like, "Fix bayonets." And boom, and like, no joke. And then here comes the tank. Boom, came in, ran it out. And I was fixing to run in. And then who was it? God, what was his name? He grabbed me. He pulled me aside. He's like, "No, Staff Sergeant, you're not going in first. I am." And then we all ran in. And it was just, from there, it was just a melee. I mean, oh my God. I dumped that, in that battle alone, just that night alone, I probably, just me, 15, 20 hand grenades.
Yeah.
I know Sergeant Sperry went through 4 freaking AT4s. Sergeant Cobra, I don't, if he's listening, Cobra, I love you, man. That dude went through freaking magazine after magazine after magazine, because what we didn't know is that the world's largest cemetery, they have structures. It was like a catacombs.
Yeah.
So these fuckers would pop up and come back up. I mean, and thank God we all had multiple magazines on us. And it's gonna be a rough night tonight, man. I'm reliving all this right now.
Dude, I remember what was it? Day two, I think. We're down to like 2-3 fucking magazines left.
Yeah.
And, we finally get a resupply. I mean, we rolled out there as a quick reaction force. We were rolling out there thinking we were going to operate, be in sustained combat operations for 3 days straight. But when that finally got ammo dropped off, they run up with bandoliers. I've never been so happy to see bandoliers in my life. You know?
Drinking hot ass water.
Yeah.
They fucking give you hot ass water. It's like 105 degrees, and you're like,
didn't give a fuck because we didn't have any water.
Yeah, you're like, I don't care. Oh, it was. People talk about Way City and the Battle of Fallujah and other battles that happened in the Marine Corps, but the Battle of Najaf was put on the wayside because of what happened with Fallujah, because Fallujah was like all that in a bag of chips. Well, fuck, look what we did. They have, oh my gosh,
1 second, man. I can still hear. I'm going to grab some. I want to show you this. So I was at Marine Corps University, and this was sitting on the table, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And I snatched this bitch up, and this is a little.
I know it very well, man. I got a copy myself. Yeah, I know exactly what.
I was elated to see this, man. I saw this sitting there, and I was like, "Wow, that's awesome." And I don't know for sure, but this is probably Bravo Marines on the Kufa raid right here.
It is, yeah. So, no shit, that's Bravo.
But that was awesome. That's it was nice. It was nice to see some recognition. Like our platoon commander was evacuated on the first night. He got hit with a mortar. He was blinded, so he gets evac'd. First, our radio operator that we hit gets hit by a sniper, presumably a sniper. So he gets evac'd. So our platoon sergeant takes over the platoon on day 1, and we're out there for 3 days.
What's his name, dude? What's his name? Freaking
Willis. Staff Sergeant Willis.
Yeah, he passed away, right?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Me and him, we were on recruiting duty together. No shit. It's a small world, man.
Small Corps.
Yeah, small Corps. Yeah, but the fucking straight up hero. The amount of heroics that happened in a Joff, you can't make this stuff up, man. I mean, oh my God, man. I mean, shit. I saw Marines, Navy corpsmen, and some Army cats that, that should have been, should have Bronze Star, Silver Star, and then didn't. It's just one of those things, man.
Yeah.
One of those things. I mean, shit. I'm reliving memories right now.
I I've learned so much, or I'm not saying learned, but so much has been reignited by just talking to guys, doing these interviews with warfighters, just dudes that served with me in 1-4, stuff that I had long forgotten, and then they just trigger a memory. So I love it. I love doing this. It's fantastic. There's just so much, talking to Zane Fisher, who was a 0311, that, was right there next to my machine gun team with 1st Platoon. And, some of the stuff, like his perspective, being there in the exact same place, exact same time, but from a rifleman's perspective, like it's just, it brought up so many memories.
True story, man. True story. This is things that we're never going to be able to take away. I mean, this is history. So as many young Marines and many people can hear about what we've done and they echo this and learn about us and what we, what's been out there, go forth and do great things.
So one thing Zane Fisher brought up that I completely forgot about is, because I did an interview with Nathan Schomer, who you probably remember.
Oh, I know.
So Nathan Schomer is like, he's talking about the Kufa raid, and he like stops. He's like, "Where were you at the Kufa raid?" And I was like, I had to stop and think about it, and I'm like, well, I think we were doing rear security or something. I didn't realize, until Zane Fisher brought it up. But he's like, no, man, our platoon was so combat ineffective after the battle, the first 3 days in the fighting in the Najaf cemetery, that we couldn't even go on the Kufa raid because we didn't have a platoon commander. Like our RO was just an 0311 that strapped on a radio.
Yep.
We had so many casualties. We were combat ineffective. That's why we didn't take part in the Kufa raid with the rest of the company.
We were going out. To be honest with you, man, we were going. We were rolled back into FOB Duke, and we were going to the chow hall and asking for freaking cooks to come out and run with us. Like, hey, anybody want to get a combat action ribbon? Let's go, because we didn't have enough people. Like, no shit. And that's how we rolled. I mean, and I'll say this: people talk shit about cooks that are most cooks in any branch of service are freaking phenomenal. Because we had a standing line of people that want to go out and roll with us. Like, let's roll, let's go. And I never lost a single cook. And we put them on a 50 cal, or put them on a Mark 19, or put them on a freaking on a 240 Golf or 240 Bravo. I don't know what it's called now, but and they would roll, and they were hard as woodpecker lips, man. I mean, I'm telling you. And they would roll, and they didn't give a fudge. I mean, we did some seriously crazy, stupid ops. It was just straight misery. I mean, just getting rained on. Stop in one place. Hey, guess what? Hey, guys, we have open back Humvees. I'm sorry, it sucks to be you, but we're going to sit here for 6 hours and get rained on. And it was 45 degrees. Suck it up. Fuck you. And they endured it. I mean, how can you not say something good about somebody that does that, man? I mean, the entire the Marine Corps, man. I mean, people ask why we do what we do. I mean, it's not it's not being a Marine. It's the people to your left and your right. You earn the title. You've gone through all that. It's something that you is ingrained in your soul. And I'm sorry if other people don't understand that. And if you don't, you never will until you step on the yellow footprints and you say, I do. And you take that soul, that solemn, that validation before you walk into those doors. But, being a Marine is a Marine. And it's, man, I mean, shit, dude.
One thing I want to piggyback off of what you said about the cooks and whatnot. I was actually just talking about this with a buddy of mine, Les. He just did the last interview with Warfighters, and he served in Desert Storm, and he was actually in the Air Wing. But we were talking about this whole concept of every Marine or rifleman, right? Marines go to Marine combat training for 2 weeks before they even go to their MOS school if they're non-infantry. And I started talking about Guadalcanal. Guadalcanal, Marines were so attrited that you had those cooks, you had those mechanics, filling in rifle squads. And I even shared the story about a Marine aviator who was, flying his freaking aircraft, his plane, shooting down enemy Zeros, And then when his aircraft was so shot to shit that he couldn't fly it anymore because it was down, he became a rifle platoon commander and was leading Marines against the Japanese. So
it happened on a job, man. I mean, we roll into camp and we're like, hey, we need 5 guys. And we had cooks, we had freaking, admin guys. I mean, I will refuse to say the name Pogue because that's disrespectful. Because bullets don't fly without supply. You do your job because if you don't do your job, I can't do my job. So I refuse to say it, or refer to a Marine as a Pogue. That's disrespectful. But I'll say this: I had guys that lined up, and they're like, "Let's roll, let's roll. I'm ready to go right now." And we did. We need 3. Let's roll and let's go. And that's the Marine Corps, man. I mean, shit, dude. I mean, I don't know, man. It's I could go on and on and on. It's like, when I did my 60 Minutes interview, with Dick Face there at freaking FOB Duke, and I did 2 hours worth of interview.
I forgot about all that.
Yeah, and I did 2 hours worth of it, and he showed 5, 6, maybe 8 seconds worth of me because he was pissed because he's like, well, you don't like your commanders and your commanding officers, they haven't done this and they haven't done that, and you haven't. I'm like, dude, I'm a fucking Marine, man. The fuck you want me to do? I kill shit, blow stuff up. What the fuck you want me to do? And it was brutal, dude. But I wouldn't change a damn thing because everything that I have in my life right now is because, number one, I said go when everybody else said no, and I chose the Marine Corps. And for whatever reason, I have a beautiful wife that I don't deserve because she's beyond me. She's freaking amazing. And she can hear me right now. She can hear it. She can hear this. But I've met phenomenal people like yourself. I've done some crazy things that people will never. I mean, guys like, oh, I'm gonna freaking go drive a boat over freaking blah blah blah, but do some stupid shit. I'm like, bruh, I've already done that, man. I mean, that in a bag of chips. I mean, here I am, 47. I'm like, I'm old because I've already done all the stupid shit that I needed to do before I was fucking 25, 26, and you're just now doing it, and you think you're cool because you're gonna freaking for whatever. I'm like, bruh, here's a gun, go that way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so you leave, when you retire, you go in and you start doing additional service. All right. So it's not necessarily, serving the United States Marine Corps, but you're continuing to support veterans. So I kind of want to explore that, man. What are you doing now?
Okay, so when I retired, I moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I worked for the VA for a while, for about 2.5 years. I was a regional manager working for the SFL TAP program, which is a Soldier for Life TAP. So when you get out of any branch of service, you have to go through the TAP program, which is the Transition Assistance Program, and it teaches you about how to VA assistance, resumes, career assistance, whatever. I did that for 2.5 years, and then now I've been with an organization called Hire Heroes USA. We are a national nonprofit, and I am a professional transition specialist. So for free, I write your resume for you. I help you with VA disability. I help you with with transition, interview process, LinkedIn, federal resumes, and anything you can think of when it comes to the transition process. So anybody, as long as they're a transition service member, a veteran, or a spouse of the 3, can register for the service and look us up, and we're going to help you. And last year, we helped 13,500 plus military veterans, spouses, transition service members to get jobs globally. So we're good at what we do, and it's free. I'll say it again, man, it's free. We just want to help.
That's awesome. You and I were kind of talking a little bit before we kicked this interview off, and we both mentioned it's like, you think about all the guys that you served with, and you always hear this negative stereotype with veterans and military service members and everything. And honestly, I think most of it's bullshit because every
It
guy
is.
that I know that I served with, especially in combat, they've all gone out and became successful individuals in one way or another. You know, whether that's just living the American dream, you know, a wife and kids, or becoming successful businessmen, owning their own companies, and or you know, individuals in high-ranking positions and civilian-oriented careers. I mean, every single one of those dudes has gone to do bigger and better things, and it drives
100%.
me nuts when I hear like this homeless talk and these so and so X amount percentage are veterans. I'm like, well, how are you getting that? Are you seeing these homeless guys DD-214s? Like, because I find it hard to believe that a guy that went through, especially the United States Marine Corps, who was taught how to be self-resilient and reliant and be able to improvise, adapt, and overcome, all of a sudden finds himself on the streets and he's stuck. He can't do anything. You know, life's
Well,
over.
well, to be honest with you, when it comes to the 22 a day, the 22 a day Marines, service members commit suicide. Well, that's that's throughout the year. So not actually 22, people commit suicide a day. Um, but with the amount of homeless veterans that we have, they're homeless for a reason. And as hard as this is to say, they're homeless because they want to be homeless, and they have a lot more psychological problems going on than just simply, here's a paycheck and moving into a homeless shelter. It is what it is. Um, they, for whatever reason, I don't know, but they're there for a reason. And I hate to say it, man, but they're homeless for a reason. You know, it is what it is. Now, the suicide rate, that is a whole different animal that I don't want to go into because I don't have I just don't know. I'm not a school trained, psychologist. Whatever happens, you know, there needs to be, a greater emphasis on, you know, someplace that the more vets they can reach out and talk like what we're doing right now and have those conversations. I don't give a fuck if you've had 20 beers in you, man. I don't care. Just talk to somebody, and have those conversations and just like what's going on with you, man. I really don't think that those places are that are there, they don't exist, or if they are, that I'll be honest, I don't want to talk to them, man. I mean, I've been in that situation, and who am I gonna call? What's the number? I don't know it. Um, who am I gonna? I mean, I'm gonna talk to somebody on a 1-800 number. It's just gonna be like, well, hi, Ian, how are you doing today? Are you have thoughts about killing yourself? I'm like, well, no, I don't, but I just want to talk to somebody and somebody I can relate to and somebody that's been there where I've been, that I've tuned the same freaking sand with, and just say, hey, how are you doing? I mean, as fucked up as that is, it's honest to God truth. And I've had this conversation with thousands and thousands of veterans. They don't want to call that line. They don't want to call that. They want nothing to do with the VA. Because they feel that they number one, they're not going to help them, and number two, even if they do talk to them, they haven't gotten what they need to on the back end. And I asked them, like, what do you need on the back end? What are you talking about, man? Like, well, it was some dude, and it just they weren't cool, and and I'm like, I get that, and I don't know where I'm going with that, man, but that's something that later on down the road that maybe that you can articulate to other vets and just say, hey, you know, but at the same time, how many of us, like me and you, and the people that are on this fucking live feed, are willing to talk to somebody and put our life out there and say, hey, man, I got you, because there's not a lot of us out there, man. There is, but there's not a lot of us out there that are willing to do that conversation. But to be honest with you, it's That's what's going on, man. I mean, let's call a duck a duck. You know, it is what it is. And I'm sorry to rant, dude, but
No, you're good. You're good, man. Yeah, it's just one thing going through, being in the Marine Corps for 2 decades and knowing, having the privilege of knowing so many combat veterans. You see how combat has, shaped different individuals in different ways, right? Because not everybody's the same. It's not
right,
it's not a cookie cutter approach. Even though we all put on the exact same uniform, the exact same
right.
gear, and everything's situated the same, the human being that's inside that gear is different.
Mm-hmm.
With every single individual.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to name names, but like guys that I've served with in the Joff Cemetery who experienced exact same things as I, had a lot of trouble with PTSD over the years, stemming from those exact same experiences that I went through, and they had a lot harder time with it. And I understand that, man. It's just different. We're all different. And I think about going, if I were not a young man going through the 2003 Iraq invasion, seeing the stuff that we saw, we saw some pretty gruesome stuff. I have children, small children now. Unfortunately, it's part of war. Little kids get caught up in that. We saw dead kids. And
Yep.
I think going through the Iraq invasion in my current state as an older man with small children of my own, if seeing those, the bodies of small children, it would have a different effect on me than it did as a young man going through that without kids. So,
Yep. Well said, man. Well said. But I appreciate what you're doing because it's platforms like this to where we can get together and say, hey, where can I go? I've got issues, and whether I want to acknowledge them or not, where can I go and who can I seek help with? So yeah, think what you're doing, man. Brent, this is good stuff, man. It really is. Okay.
well, I appreciate it, man. The whole point of this is just, tell the stories of servicemen and show their success, man. And I appreciate you guys coming on here. And I told you from the get go, like, I actually really enjoy doing this. And it's not something I ever thought that I would enjoy. Unfortunately, it was the falling of Afghanistan, which got me into live streaming. But yeah, it's completely different. I don't want to go down that road. But when one door closes, another one opens up, I guess. But
true story,
man.
We'll
We got about a little over 10 mics left. So I just want to put the feelers out there. Any of you in the comment section have some questions for the good Master Sergeant, feel free to start commenting on those. And while we wrap up our conversations, I'll highlight some of those questions. So, what were we about to say, bud?
I'm good, man. I'm just waiting for comments.
Yeah. Well, they need time to type. So, man, whatever you got.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate Brent. Thank you for letting me come on here, and I do apologize if I wasn't too PC. But this is a story needs to be told. From all of us. And everybody you can talk to. I mean, this is real time. Real time. Real stuff. Okay. And keep doing it. Keep talking to other people. Get the stories out there. And yeah, make it happen, dude. Because this is good stuff, dude.
First question: when did you serve in 2-1, and what ship were you on?
Really, Frank? Come on, man. You know me. Hey, Frank, eat this, dude. Eat this. You know me better than that, dude. You know this, dude.
Get some peers in here, huh?
Okay, Frank. 2-1. The USS New Orleans, 2005, and then the USS Boxer, 2006, 2007.
I'm assuming this is probably somebody else you served with.
Oh, that was oh God.
Oh, same guy.
Oh God, who was that gunny? You're talking about the conversation we had when we were in Hong Kong, when he's like, all you guys get from the back of the bitch, get fucking back up here. I remember that. Frank, I don't remember his name. It's not. We're friends on Facebook, dude. So eat it back, dude. Frank, you know what I'm talking about.
I got a memory I want to trigger with you. Old Gunnery Sergeant Haynes. You touch my shit, I kill you or cut you.
Oh. Yes. Okay, so the picture you're showing right now, Lieutenant Cap, Harvey Parkinson. Unfortunately, 1, 2, 3 of those guys are dead.
Yep.
Man,
Yeah, yeah, that's a bad.
You know, it's all good, man. It's all good. I mean, shit, it is what it is. The Black Marine that you're seeing on to the left of Lieutenant Cap, that right guy right there. That dude, good people.
Yeah.
That is oh my God, man. Me and him, some good stories, man. Some good stories.
He was a master guns when he retired, right?
I don't know. So I lost so that is not Master Gunner Sergeant Haynes. So Master Gunner Sergeant Haynes, I served with him at SOI. He actually died of cancer like 2 years after he died, after he retired. That is shit. I don't remember his name, man. To be honest with you, I'm having a brain fart. Um, I, I know stories about him that I'm not gonna share on here right now, but good people, fucking badass people.
Yeah, Master Sergeant Haynes died of natural causes, right?
He did, yeah. He died of cancer.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, Mascon Haynes, yeah, he died of cancer. The dude right in the middle, that is Lieutenant Cap. Me and him had many a words, many a words. Yeah, he didn't understand machine gun and machine gun employment. I told him to go eat a fucking concrete penis many times. I mean, I went to machine gun later school. I mean, I know what I was fucking doing. He just didn't know. The dude to the right of him, as you're looking at it, the bald head with the cowboy back on, is Sergeant Harvey
Parkinson.
Yeah,
I read
that dude. I read that dude. Um, Me and him shared many a foxhole together.
Yeah, he's good people.
Yeah, he was fucking badass people, man. I mean, that dude. I mean, you remember back in 2004 when we did the monetary pause of combat because everybody had to check their helmets to make sure they weren't fucking cheap ass fucking police helmets. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's because of him. That's how he was killed in action because his helmet was inferior, and unfortunately he took shrapnel to the head and passed away.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's
a crazy story. He was a mortarman.
Yep.
He used to be the mortar section there, and then he went over to the assault section. But he was killed by an enemy mortar. Like the irony and all that.
Oh, I remember that, man. Trust me, I remember that day. To this day, I remember that day. And there's other Marines I talked to that will never let me forget that. All because some dumbass fucking Marine bought a fucking cheap ass helmet and turned in a fucking supply that was fucking bought from Oceanside that was not even Kevlar. And it made its way out fucking in the supply section, and he got it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about other questions. You have questions about recruiting duty. I used to work for, like I said, I used to work for the VA. So I was a regional manager for the state of Colorado, Texas, Wyoming, parts of Montana, Utah, California. So all things VA related. If you have questions about that. Retirement, yeah, I know you're coming up on that, man. You have questions about, TRICARE or, retirement in general. All things and everything related as far as separating from the service, please let me know because I'm here to help.
One question here: say the name of the company you work for again.
Hire Heroes USA.
And here's one. Where do you see life taking you in the future?
I'm going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years with Hire Heroes. Continue doing what I do, which is helping veterans, find a place in the workforce and find their niche and give them some love and give them the things that were not given, on the outside world or on the inside world before they retired or got out. After that, I have no idea. Maybe retired and cruising the USA in an RV. I have no clue. But from here, next 5 years, I'm gonna continue still doing stuff like this and helping vets the best way I can, man. Because I'm so tired of our brothers and sisters don't know where to go and they don't know who to talk to, and they don't have a platform like this and they can vent and talk about stuff, and they don't know. They just don't know, and they get out and they like, hey, my resume's shit, or hey, I've got all these services, all these schools that I've done. How do I portray that into a civilian, population? Well, I got you. Or how do I prepare for an interview? I've got you. Well, hey, what do I do about my LinkedIn? I've got you. Well, I want to work for, the federal government. What about my federal resume? I've got you. And yeah, so that's gonna be me.
All right, last question, then we're going to wrap this up, brother. Best piece of gear you were issued in the Marine Corps?
Canteen cup, hands down, bar none. Canteen cup, because you can do 1,000 things with that.
It's a good piece of gear for sure.
Yep. Brent, once again, sir, thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you for letting me have this platform to talk to you. If you ever need anything, I'm definitely here to talk, and obviously, I can talk. But please portray to your clients, people out there listening, they need anything. This is not, this is a community. So this is, one team, one fight. So if they need something, we're here to help. And you need me again, man. Hey,
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, brother. It's been an outstanding interview and experience talking to you again. I don't think you and I have spoken since
we
freaking
haven't.
like 2004.
It's been fucking a hot minute, dude. It's been a hot
So,
fucking minute.
this
All right,
is
brother.
this has been great.
All right, brother. Well, hey, you go forth and do great things, man. You need something, you let me know.
All right, brother. Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis, man.